Loneliness is the default state for men, but the default state for women is abundance. The average woman is automatically, just by virtue of her existence, pursued, validated, wanted. She is presented with a multitude of options anytime she goes out. It's really not an exaggeration to say that the average woman does not have to try to get into a relationship. Sure, some women have more options than others, but even for a relatively unattractive woman, abundance is still the default. And it's not even about traditional gender roles or anything like that. I mean, you could say that's part of it. Men are the ones that are expected to initiate, while there is no such expectations for women. But why is that the case? Why isn't it the other way around? Or why aren't both sexes expected to contribute equally to initiating a relationship? Well, it's pretty simple, actually. It's not like these traditional gender roles just appeared out of thin air. It's all about value and incentives. Basically, men are biologically driven to crave physical intimacy with women. Men place more value on sex than almost anything else. It's a basic physical human need for men. Women arguably have a biological drive for the same thing, but it's definitely not even close to the same level as it is for men. And they really only have that drive at certain times. It's a cycle for them. It's not like how it is for men, where it's just an inescapable urge we have all the time. So, men have a very strong desire to be with women all the time. And it doesn't even feel right to call it a desire, actually. It's more like a need. Obviously, you won't literally die from not getting any, but it is necessary for your mental health. I don't care what anyone tries to tell you about voluntarily going their own way, or dudes trying to act like, actually, I'm asexual. I don't even want to do that. That's not real. That's not a real thing. I mean, there are men with no libido, but that is a medical issue. It's not an orientation. But yeah, point is, for an average physically healthy male human, sex is a physical need surpassed only by thirst, hunger, and the need to expel waste. That is how important it is. Okay, so what that means is virtually every single woman on this planet has something extremely valuable that virtually all men want. It's nearly as necessary to life as water is, but it's a lot more scarce, for most of us, anyways. So that makes it actually more valuable than water. Especially these days, for an average guy, women are a very scarce resource. So, what a woman has that a man needs, that is just immensely valuable. Dave Chappelle had a bit back in the day that I think explained it pretty well. He was talking about the first time he got paid for a movie role. He cashed the check all at once, so then he ended up having to walk home with all the money. He had to walk through Brooklyn with, I think it was $25,000 in his backpack. And he says it was the most terrifying experience of his life, just knowing that if everyone knew what he had in his back pocket, he'd probably get mugged. So then the punchline is that's kind of like how it is for a woman. They're just always walking around with that much value on them because it's just innate to their existence. Women are just automatically extremely valuable. And it is virtually all women that have that much value, by the way. Obviously, a very attractive woman is going to be more sought after than a less attractive woman, but think of it like this. Okay, a woman's value is based on this physical need that men have, which is similar to hunger in a way, but what women have to offer is much more scarce than food for most of us. You can easily get your hands on a pack of ramen for like 50 cents or whatever it costs, but it's a whole lot more difficult to get with a woman than it is to just go down to the corner store and buy some noodles. Technically, you can purchase time with a woman. That is possible, but I would argue that's not really the same thing. It's a bit more complicated than that, but we'll get into that later. But even so, procuring that sort of service is easily way more expensive and more complicated than just buying a bag of chips from a vending machine. But the point is, food is an abundant resource for the average man, and what women have is a scarce resource for the average man. That's why it's so much more valuable. But even though food is an abundant resource, and higher quality, better tasting, more nutritious food is easily available, sometimes you're just really hungry and you're busy and maybe you're already on the road, for example. So it's like, fuck it, I'll just stop by Taco Bell real quick and get a burrito. I don't care who you are and how much money you have, even Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk or someone like that, I guarantee sometimes they end up eating some cheap, disgusting, fast food microwave slop because when you're hungry, you just need to eat. And sometimes you crave that slop. So that is why unattractive women are still immensely valuable, even to high value men that have lots of options. To put it plainly, the unattractive women, they're just easier. It's a matter of convenience because sometimes a guy might not want to deal with all the headache that goes along with trying to court a highly attractive, high maintenance woman. And that also explains why so many average or below average women have these hugely inflated egos and these hugely inflated standards, because they do have high value men trying to holler at them all the time, maybe even keeping them on the roll call. And of course, every average looking woman also has her own freaking solar system of beta orbiter simps, some desperate, starving dudes that focus on the less attractive women because they already know they don't even stand a chance with the Stacys. So, yeah, the world we're living in, women have innate value, and men have no value, essentially, other than the value they create for themselves. I mean, yeah, some guys are just genetically gifted. There are guys that are 6'5", broad shoulders, perfect face, chiseled jawline, and all that. And there are guys that are born into wealth. There are people that are born wealthy. So there are guys out there that don't even have to do anything, and women will still chase after them. But that is very rare. I always see people talking about the top 20% or the top 10% of guys getting all the women. And I think that is probably true. But most men in that top 10% are there at least partially from their own efforts. I guess it's only like 1% of men, if that are just born into that position where they have an abundance of options without even having to do any kind of looks maxing or career grinding or anything. Honestly, not even 1%. That's probably an overestimate. It's probably more like 0.1%. But that level of privilege, for lack of a better term, that only 0.1% of men are born with, that's just the default for most women. And I want y'all to think about this. Think about what I'm saying. Obviously, I'm not going off any data here, but I really don't think those numbers are far off. The average woman is born with the same level of innate value as the top 0.1% of men. No cap, as they say. It really is like that. Now, I'm not saying an average woman can't have any struggles in her life. There's a lot of bad things a person can experience, regardless of their gender. Health problems, family issues, poverty, whatever. Obviously, it's not like every woman out here is living the perfect life. But when it comes to relationships and love and intimacy, I mean, if I tell it like it really is, I might get in trouble. But, well, let me just say this. The average dog living in this society has it really hard when it comes to dating. But cats, on the other hand, cats are living life on easy mode. You know what I mean? Cats don't even have to act cat-like anymore. They don't even have to shave their legs or anything because there's no social shaming allowed against cats in this society. That's like the greatest crime a person can commit. Used to be, an average looking cat would have to set a trap if she wanted a good mouse. But in this this felinocentric society, even a fat, obese, ugly cat has high value mice just begging her for a chance. But the average dog has to fight tooth and nail. He has to fight for his life to get a bone. And even then, he might not get anything. Okay, I don't know. This is getting too convoluted. Dogs are boys and cats are girls. I don't know how clear that was, but yeah, that's what's going on with that metaphor there. But the point is, there's a basic human need that men have that has become increasingly difficult in recent years for most men to acquire. And women simply do not have that same problem. Now, back in the day, prior to the overwhelming success of the feminist revolution, because make no mistake about it, it was not just a feminist movement, it was a revolution. The entire structure of society got flipped on its head. Some will say that's a good thing. Others might disagree, especially if they have a brain. I mean, realistically, there probably were some positives. Let me know in the comments if you can think of any. But back before the revolution, there were certain rules in place that helped ensure that the majority of men could actually end up with a wife. And it wasn't so much actual laws enforcing this. As far as I'm aware, there's never been a law in the post-industrial Western world that required women to marry a guy that they didn't want to. But there were certain social standards, social mores, if you will, customs. There were standards that were agreed upon by the vast majority, and if somebody disobeyed those unwritten rules of society, then there would be consequences. And again, we're not talking about laws here, so the consequences weren't legal. Nobody was getting arrested, but these were socially enforced consequences. Say, if there was a small community that had a single young woman living in it, and there was also, say, 10 single men around her same age that were all actively attempting to court her, if that woman refused to date any of those men and she just never got married, she would most likely be shamed or ostracized in some way by all the other members of the community because she would be breaking the social contract. She'd be benefiting from all the safety and luxury that her community provides her, but she wouldn't be contributing in one of the main ways that a woman was expected to contribute, by getting married to a man and helping to make him happy and support him just as he was expected to do for her as well, and, bearing children, all that good stuff. That is obviously important to keep a community populated and flourishing. So back in the day, we had these socially enforced social norms that maybe they were too rigid in some ways. I'm a very weird guy myself, I think, compared to most people. I think I'm probably some kind of autistic. So basically what I'm saying, I have trouble fitting in with people. So having these rigidly enforced social norms would not necessarily be great for me, depending on what all those norms are. But see, here's the thing. A lot of people would think it sounds absolutely appalling to go back to a time when we had these certain socially enforced standards that dictated how people were supposed to behave. But it's still like that today. That's the thing I think a lot of people don't realize. We do still have socially enforced, unwritten rules of society. It's just a different set of rules. Many will argue that back in the day, the social mores were oppressive to women because all the rules were determined by men. But what about now? That's my question to you. What about now? I would argue that today, as it stands, all the social standards are either set by women or they are set for the benefit of women. And men are socially shamed just for acting in their own self interest. I don't want to go into too much detail on that right now, but think of like how you might get shamed if you try to hit on a woman at the gym or something like that. Or here's another example. The current female centric social standards say that having women in the workplace is always a positive, no matter what. And every man that gets hired is just taking up the space that could have and should have been reserved for a woman. So the effect of that is that a lot of companies give preferential treatment to women when it comes to hiring practices. So, in my humble opinion, the modern social norms are all out of whack. Obviously, things need to be balanced, so it's fair for both men and women. Ultimately, we are all in this together, so I don't think the correct set of norms our society should enforce should be like it is now, where it's all for the benefit of women while men get absolutely no consideration. Because women are the ones that already have innate value. Men do not have that same innate value. So when all the socially enforced rules of society are benefiting only women, who's going to care about the men? Men don't automatically have innate value by virtue of their mere existence. So who cares about us? If men are disenfranchised by the rules of society, then they're just screwed. Nobody has any reason to take care of men because they don't really need anything from men. They don't want anything from men other than attention, I guess. But men will always care about women and try their best to support women, even if all the cards are stacked against them, because women have that innate value. Men will always desire women, no matter what the social norms are, but that does not go the other way around. So, to me, it only makes sense for the socially enforced norms of our society to be set in a way that's more balanced, so men and women can both prosper together. At the end of the day, we're all human beings. We are all in this together. We do ultimately need each other for the sake of the future of humanity. But our society is sick right now. It's sick to the point that nobody really cares about men. And everybody in any position of power at all seems to think that it's just perfectly fine and dandy for men to just be left behind, despite all the signs pointing in the direction of societal collapse. Birth rates are declining, and they're already too low, but who cares? Who cares? That's just natural selection, they say. How dare you criticize the choices that women make? There really is a male loneliness epidemic going on right now. Don't let anybody gaslight you. Don't let anybody tell you it's our own fault. Men that are lonely just need to start putting themselves out there more. That's not the problem, okay? Joining a club, going to meetups, that is not the solution to being lonely. There is a huge society-wide issue here. It is a structural problem with our society. And you can see it everywhere you go. Go to the gym or go to the grocery store or just go for a walk in the park. Chances are, if you pay attention, you'll notice that there is a lot of chronically lonely men, just like you, perhaps, if you are one of us. And you can just see by how these men carry themselves, how they're afraid to make eye contact, etc. And that's just what you see when you go out. Chronically lonely men, or excess males, as some may call us, most of us aren't really leaving the house any more than we have to. We should, honestly, It is better for society if more of us actually go out and participate in society and we let our voices be heard. But obviously, I can't really blame anyone for not wanting to do that. I mean, try talking about men's issues in the workplace and see where that gets you. At best, you'll be ostracized, and at worst, you'll get fired. You'll probably get fired. So, that's just the society we live in. It would be very difficult at this point to turn things around. The feminist movement succeeded because it had women and men behind it. Because men will always support women because women have something very valuable to men. So men helped to flip the script on us and put us into this societally diseased situation that we currently find ourselves in. But there's no way we would ever be able to have something similar to the feminist revolution except for men, or not even for men. Ideally, we'd want things to just be fair and balanced for both sexes, but that movement would never get off the ground because women would never go for it. And most of the simps of the world wouldn't go for it either. So there's just no way for that movement to ever really take off. And that's another thing about being a man born into this world, lonely, with no intrinsic value. Men are essentially an underclass in this society, and the current social norms have us all just desperate, clawing at any chance we can get to get away from this loneliness. So it creates this major crabs in a bucket situation. Men don't want to support each other. Men don't want to see another man have any success. So it creates this endemic simp mentality where men are all trying to keep each other down while at the same time just acting pathetic, prostrating themselves at women's feet. Everybody's vying for the attention of women, working these Machiavellian machinations against each other. It's pathetic. But at the same time, I get it. We are a product of our biology. We, as men, really, really, really want what women have to offer. And for those of us that can't get any, we are starving. I mean, it's pretty well known that people will literally eat each other if they have to survive, like if they're stranded at sea or whatever. So it shouldn't be any surprise that men will all try to keep each other down in the hopes that it might increase their own chances of getting with a woman. And that is what we see going on in this current simp gynocentric society that we are living in. But whatever. I wish I had some kind of solution or even like an idea. I don't know. It just sucks. I will say to any chronically lonely men out there like me, just try to stay strong and do your best to just not hold each other back. Don't hold your fellow excess males back, okay? It is natural to feel jealous when you see another man succeeding, but we gotta stand together. Just try to be happy for other guys if you see someone manage to have some good luck or whatever. Just be happy for him and hope maybe it'll happen for you later on. But let's not be crabs in a bucket. Let's not be trying to cock block each other and hold each other back. That's not doing anybody any good. If anything, that is just going to be supporting the status quo. That's just another way of supporting this femocracy. So don't do that, okay? Let's stand together and just kind of root for each other and be happy for each other. That's all I got. I don't have a solution, but that's all I got if I had a message to put out there. If you enjoyed the video, you found it thought-provoking or whatever, please check out some of my other videos and feel free to subscribe if you just want to help me out. And as always, thank you for watching. See you next time.